Welcome to another edition of Speaking of Strong Style. I am Stephen Conway along with Jeremy Finestone. This is the show where we talk about the news, issues, and events surrounding New Japan Pro Wrestling. And we had a lot of events and a lot of news to talk about this week. It's the Pi Day edition on here March 14th of the show. It's also tomorrow's Ted Lasso Day. I've got my Richmond AFC jersey on here. I'm ready for the new season. I'm also going to be going to the Champions League game tonight with Austin FC. So I'm feeling in a soccer mood. We've got March Madness going. It's a wonderful time here. There's a lot of fun and a lot of shows, Jeremy. We had some progression, a little information here to go with the Bullet Club's direction, but not everything yet. Just kind of teasing us along. And we're going to talk about these shows and these matches. But overall this week, it was a very interesting run of New Japan shows.
I have to stop you first here. You threw out a trifecta of nerd alerts here, which you never do.
No, I went hard this week.
Pi Day, Ted Lasso, and what? Manchester FC? Is that what I got?
Well, close. I have season tickets to Austin FC here.
Austin FC.
But we have a Champions League game today to go to tonight, so I'm excited about it.
I rep the nerd. So when you go nerdy on your passion, I am all about it. So you're coming with the right energy today. I think that's good. I think we have New Japan Cup stuff to talk about. Some interesting, some pretty boring. Nothing bad though. I don't want to say it's bad, but we have conversations. We have great stuff. We have good stuff. Let's get to it.
Well, we certainly have a mixed bag, and we're going to be talking about the Bullet Club leadership controversy, the United Empire's very strong first round, and then not so great second round for the UE, but a lot to talk about on that. And then, of course, we're going to be moving forward with the Multiverse. We're going to be talking about possible Okada opponents. A lot to get into in this one. Wanted to mention also that this will be available as a podcast. Word is, Jeremy, that the Apple Podcast issue is resolved. So I can finally say that when we put this up tonight, you can get this wherever you get your podcast, by crikey. I've been waiting to say it for so long.
It's a groundhog day from Caddyshack right now.
I'm very, very pumped up about it. So we will be going over that and things. So, don't forget to look for us there as well. So, yes, New Japan Cup. Now, we're just going to go, because this is a tournament and one show leads to the next. We're going to go over this in order. I figure what we do, Jeremy, is focus on the New Japan Cup matches, of course, and then just kind of give our general thoughts on the undercards here. And there are some interesting things going on with that, and that they have been teaming up El Phantasmo and David Finlay. David Finlay, of course, recently announced as basically the de facto leader of Bullet Club, or at least the self-appointed one, or ghetto-appointed one in storyline and in real life, I suppose. But El Phantasmo not too thrilled with it and is hinting at a lot of dissension here. So that's the main thing I took from the first show since our last program here on Speaking of Strong Style. It was on the 8th in Fukushima. This was not their greatest show. The attendance on this one was 720. There was some interesting stuff here, though. And the first one was that Bullet Club match. It was match number 2, Jeremy. It was Finlay, Phantasmo, Chase Owens, and Kenta taking on just 4 guys. That would be Taichi, Yoshinobu Kanemaru, Taka Michinoku, and Doki. And what we had here was Phantasmo playing this like he's not mad at Finlay personally. His issue seems to be that they all agreed, according to him, that Jay would be willing to, or they would be allowed to ride off into the sunset. Jay White would be willing to ride off into the sunset. Of course, we saw, and you saw in person there in San Jose, that David Finlay whacked him over the head with a shillelagh and sent him on his way, then came out with Ghetto. And it seems like that hasn't sat well with El Phantasmo. He hesitated on the 2 sweet hand signal. He wouldn't tag Finlay. He didn't break up a submission hold on Finlay. When Finlay was in there, he sort of persuaded him more that he should just go ahead and tag, even though he was stuck in the submission hold. And in the end, of course, Finlay is being booked very strongly. He got the Trash Panda win over Taka Michinoku. ELP left early. We're going to talk about this as it goes on, because each day was a little bit more of a chapter here. How did you feel watching how they played this sort of simmering hostility between El Phantasmo and Finlay?
I mean, you could read the room last week and you were thinking either this is all like things are brewing in the Bullet Club, or ELP is turning babyface. And we're still completely unsure of what exactly is happening right now, because you cannot just assume that what is happening in Bullet Club is exactly what is perceptionally happening for the fans. They have a way of tricking you, if it will, or making you feel like a fool for ever thinking what you saw was happening to be the case. ELP has a lot of potential as a babyface. Just when he was riding with the Young Bucks at Forbidden Door last year, the energy that they had all together, he felt like he could hang with them. And that's a main event act right there, for one. So where it's going, I don't know. Do I like where it's going? Yes. Do I think that Finlay is going to remain the leader of Bullet Club? More than likely. Where ELP ends up in all of this is going to potentially benefit ELP in the long run, whether it's the story of a long con babyface turn or a short-term babyface turn. I think the fans are just going to get behind him no matter what the direction is with him. So I don't know, but I'm interested.
And we're going to talk more about how this develops and where I feel this is going to go after we get through a few more shows, because it evolved a little bit every night. I will say this for New Japan, they did not do just the same thing each night. This progressed. And once it gets to the end of that, I'm going to give my thoughts on what I think might be going on here with that. We'll find out if I'm right. The rest of the undercard I thought on this show was fairly standard stuff, although pretty high quality. The Leo Rush, Hiromu Takahashi clashes continue to be a highlight of every program right there. I cannot wait for the singles match. It's coming up the 21st, and I'm really looking forward to it. Just the quickness, and they are already starting to form a little bit of chemistry in there as far as being able to guess what the other guy is about to do, which you never really get in the first few matches, but boy, they're starting to pick up on it, and it's a lot of fun to watch. Any other notes from the undercard before we get to the cup matches on this show?
I feel like Jeff Cobb and United Empire in general on the undercard have had really strong showings, and I don't know if that's just because they're highly motivated for whatever reason, but everybody has been showing up even when it wasn't a singles match with their name on it.
That's exactly. I have that note as well, that the United Empire really worked hard every night. And even in times when they could have gotten away with doing a lot less, granted, they were pushed hard in the opening round of this tournament. And we're going to talk more about that as we go through it. So they were motivated to look good because they were being made to look good in the entire thing. So they were going to wrestle hard. But even when they didn't have to, their preview matches were really strong throughout the week. Just good stuff. Chaos also a little bit more than usual this week. I thought we got more from them than we usually do. So in Fukushima, the two cup matches, we had Mark Davis and Toru Yano, and Evil and Ren Narita. Now we have House of Torture and we have Toru Yano. This didn't bode well, Jeremy, for high quality matches here. So let's talk about Mark Davis and Toru Yano first. That was the first one. Yano and Davis were going back and forth doing Yano hijinks there. Fletcher interfered a little bit, and Yano ended up taping him with the wrist tape to the rail. Davis chased Yano, or lured Yano under the ring, and ended up putting a hood over him. Yano, of course, came out with this hood over him, and he's scared of the dark, and he's staggering around. Apparently, he doesn't know how to take a hood off of his own head. And my only note is really bad so far at this stage of the match. You got a little bit of amateur wrestling from Yano. Fletcher slid a chair into the ring. Davis shoved down Marty Asami. Yano faked being hit with the chair, and I thought they might do the DQ here. Thankfully, he didn't. He attempted a low blow while Marty argued with Fletcher. However, that was caught by Davis. Davis, a very big man to hit an enziguri, but he did. And then he hit a move that I can only really think of as a reverse Samoan drop, kind of up on his shoulders, and splattered him on his face there a little bit. It was a pin for Mark Davis. He moves on in the tournament. Toru Yano, thankfully, is eliminated. But Mark Davis is not a miracle worker, and he did not get a very good match out of Toru Yano. But I don't fault Mark Davis for that. This was a long 12 minutes and 33 seconds for me.
I guess the finish is called the water slide. So it's kind of a part Coriolis in a lot of ways. Mark Davis is a big dude. He he had to get forward in this match, and Toru Yano was the path to do it. And when you have a Toru Yano match, there are a lot of people that massively deride Toru Yano and just like, it's not for them. And it's not for me either, but I consider it almost like a Harvey Dent 50-50 kind of thing. You flip a coin, Toru Yano's moving on, or he's losing. But you know what you're getting, and it's a bullshit match in some way, shape, or form in order to advance the plot. There are clowns and jokers in every wrestling company, people that are just X factors. Toru Yano is that X factor. We only had to deal with him in one cup match. I'm considering myself incredibly lucky when all is said and done.
Okay, fair enough. And then we moved on to Evil and Ren Narita.
Oof.
So we had
18 minutes and 44 seconds.
Man, that's about 13:44 longer than this needed to be. Evil, a lot of red shoe spots, none of which were particularly good. There was a ref bump with Narita's leg. So one of those things where Narita went to kick Evil. Evil caught the leg and threw it around to Red Shoes. And as you know, whenever Evil is wrestling, the referee has to stand as close to Evil as possible so that he can get involved with all these spots that never happen any other time. And Togo interferes. Dick Togo interferes. You got the chair spot with the baseball swings where he puts the chair around Narita's neck, swings the other chair, an additional chair like a baseball, and hits him in the apparently breaking his neck. You know, that whole thing. But Ren kicked out of that, so they made Narita look pretty tough. And he would put the Everything is Evil on him to get the win, then put him in a Boston Crab after. You know, this wasn't great, and I suppose it can lead to something that I was hoping we were also past, which is House of Torture being involved in this with the 6-man tag match titles. So I guess we're going to go back to that. I know House of Torture have to be somewhere on the card here, and I understand that they also like to push Evil in this tournament. So I suppose this had to happen this way, but you know, this isn't New Japan's strong suit. All these ref bumps and interference, they don't tend to look smooth. They tend to be illogical, and they just don't work for me, Jeremy. And this was another example of one. I thought that Red Shoes has to go so far out of his normal routine to try to make it look like he's not seeing all of this. And it just doesn't really do it for me. And I don't think the crowd is really that into it either. It didn't sound like they were.
This is one of those time to take your medicine kind of matches. It has a means to an end. It does feel like Ren Narita is on the upswing and Evil's faction is on the downswing. And so they're intersecting in the mid card. Evil used to be on the upper mid card. Now he's just kind of trending downwards. And that, speaking of strong style, our adopted Sons faction, he is on the upswing. They have the Never Trios title. He's with Minoru Suzuki and Desperado. They already have the title. Chances are this loss is to strengthen them with another win over House of Torture and move on to something else. You know, I'm kind of eyeballing some of those guys from United Empire maybe challenging for the Never title. I'm getting a vibe of Okan and Cobb and maybe somebody else over there to kind of be in a program come forward because they don't really have anything if you could map it out. So there are things ahead and things to kind of scratch your head and say, hopefully this is a very quick revisit before we move on to the next big thing. But if this is the win that Evil gets to kind of embolden the strong style faction to be greater than the House of Torture, I'm for it. Because it was a bullshit win. It was not a clean win, and it was not something that you look at as like, oh, Ren Narita is the worst for this coming out of it.
Yeah, although this tour hasn't been very kind to Narita. He's taken some losses here in this one. He'll take another one later in the week.
That was a high-profile one, and he did look good coming out.
Yep. And we move on to the 10th in Kofu, Yamanashi. Attendance here was a 710. This is Shingo Takagi's hometown. And on the undercard of this one, we did see A clever spot, I thought. I had one note on this just for guys, Taichi and Yoshinobu Kanemaru against Evil and Dick Togo. I enjoyed this one. Now, like I said, I just crapped on House of Torture, so I'm going to give them props when they do something I enjoyed. Dick Togo went to get Kanemaru's whiskey. It was a big week for Suntory whiskey. They got a lot of screen time. A lot of Suntory surprises.
Big prop this week.
Togo took a big swig and was about to spit it onto Kanemaru. However, Taichi came up from behind and covered his mouth so he couldn't spit it out. Evil then went to kick Kanemaru. Kanemaru caught Evil's leg and threw it into Dick Togo's stomach, thus ejecting the whiskey from his mouth into Evil's face. And I'm not doing it justice. This was actually done very smoothly and it looked really good. So I just thought, okay, that I can handle. Like, this is an entertaining way of doing it.
That's some clown shit you can get behind.
Oh, yeah, a little bit. And there were a couple other instances of that where just for guys, and the House of Torture got into a Suntory whiskey battle that was pretty good, I got to say. The guys spent a lot of time thinking of ways to get hit in the stomach, spit whiskey in random places and things. This was more entertaining than that usually is. So, yeah, there's that one. The next one was...
I was highly entertained by the next one.
yeah, this was also good. So we had the 6-man tag champs teaming up with Ryusuke Taguchi. That's right.
Coach Taguchi.
And Ryusuke Taguchi together on one team against Finlay, Kenta, Chase Owens, and El Phantasmo, that group there from Bullet Club. So once again, El Phantasmo did not break up a submission when Finlay was in it. He was in the ankle lock from Taguchi, which has finished matches before once upon a time when Taguchi was to be taken seriously. And in this one, Taguchi, though, called out some of the coaches' signals. Suzuki had none of it whatsoever, and Taguchi stood outside the ring and moped most of the time right there. His feelings were deeply hurt.
The whole dynamic of Taguchi just being a geek, that they were just not having they were not entertaining any of it, and his hurt feelings. In the meantime, like, the Bullet Club not being on the same page actually allowed the Strong Style faction to have an advantage through the entirety of this match was a highly entertaining dynamic that I'm not exactly sure would have worked at any other period of time in New Japan Cup history or New Japan history. So well done finding the singular moment to make this match happen and maybe never happen ever again.
It was fun. And the other thing about it was throughout the week, ELP was baby facing with the crowd. And as they left the ringside area, of course, Finlay is being the big jerk. He's the heel, classic heel, telling all the fans to shove it. When El Phantasmo sees that somebody's made a little sign for him or something like that, he goes over and does the too sweet sign to them. He was kind to them while Finlay was just a big old jerk face. So that was the dynamic there as they left ringside. And once again, it was a thing where they're just not quite getting along. That would manifest itself into something a little bit more physical on the next show.
Yeah, I think the next show is the one that I highly enjoyed, the shenanigans of the Bullet Club, but we'll get to that at some point.
We had a better than usual match next, and a better than usual. These are all good workers, but again, it's a preview tag. That is United Empire, Great-O-Khan, Will Ospreay, Jeff Cobb, and Mark Davis. They got a win over Goto, Ishii, Toru Yano, and Tomoaki Honma. Cobb defeated Honma on that one, but Will and Ishii really decided to go at each other and have a real nice match for 11 minutes and 4 seconds. This one was fun to watch.
Yeah, this is one of those matches that you were going through it and you're watching United Empire, and they were just locked in, both as a faction, able to work with each other, and at the same time, just working with Honma, Ishii, Goto. I'm not really going to say Yano, because Yano was just fucking around for a lot of the match doing Yano shit. Mm-hmm. But 7 of the 8, I felt like delivered as promised on this match. And so I was for it. I'm glad Cobb got to look strong before his unfortunate later time in the cup. But for now, good times.
There you go. And then we also had Tama Tonga, Shota Umino, Yo, and Lio Rush against LIJ, that being Naito, SANADA, Hiromu, and Bushi. And Shooter got the win there. Shota Umino did with an STF. to get ready for his match with Zack Sabre Jr., one I'm looking forward to in the next round. From there, we went to the New Japan Cup matches here. And that first one was Kyle Fletcher over YOSHI-HASHI. 10-minute match, but it felt pretty exciting while it was going. I thought this was real good. Fletcher had the advantage early. It was a good match overall. YOSHI-HASHI sold a lot earlier and then lost. My one critique of YOSHI-HASHI in this, Jeremy, is I wish he would wrestle a little more aggressive when he's doing a job. Because it seemed like in this match that he gave a lot to Fletcher early and then he lost. And he lost to a jumping tombstone, which looked terrific. That was a good-looking move.
That's a solid move.
My only thing about this, though, is I just wish that he would take control of the match and have the advantage more of it when he's going to lose. It just felt like it wasn't a squash by any means. YOSHI-HASHI got a lot of stuff in, and it was good. Again, this was not a bad match. My one piece of advice for YOSHI-HASHI over there is look a little meaner, a little tougher, a little stronger when you're going to be laying down, because if you sold like the first half of the match and then got a couple of minutes of offense in, then lose at the end, he could have made himself look a little better here.
That's interesting. I didn't really see that, but now that you mention it, it makes a lot of sense. There are times where he doesn't feel very collaborative with opponents in the ring. He's just kind of, all right, do what you want, and then I'll follow along. And there might have been a little bit of that in here because this was the Kyle Fletcher spotlight hour for YOSHI-HASHI. Instead of, all right, I'm going to give you a bunch, and then you're going to give me a bunch so you sell. And, it makes you look strong in some ways. He was kind of like, all right, well, it'll make you look strong. And in a big match setting, sometimes that doesn't capture the fans as much as you want it to. And so the match may have been a little disjointed on that. I thought it was fine. I thought Fletcher's other match with the member of Bishamon was better than this, but I couldn't put my finger on why. And I think maybe what you explained could have been the reason.
Moving on to the main event of the night, we had Aaron Henare versus Shingo Takagi. Now, this one was everything you thought it would be. Henare, he put his Muay Thai training to work in this one, because some of these Muay Thai influenced kicks to Shingo were really snug. There were a lot of really good chops, hard clotheslines in this. Shingo's in his hometown, so he's motivated. Henare's in a big match. He's motivated. Both these guys are real good. This was just a slugfest back and forth. This was not one guy laying down, selling. This one went back and forth and was stiff for the first 15 minutes. At about that moment is when Henare got his first big tackle, that kind of rampage move there. And he damn near submitted Shingo with the Ultima, his version of the full Nelson, and a really nice little run there where it looked like he might have Shingo knocked out cold, and they're arguing about whether or not it should be stopped. And Shingo did rally, however, and managed to get the Made in Japan, but Henare kicked out, which is it's usually a setup for the Last of the Dragon. And Henare kept escaping from that. He didn't hit it. He would just keep escaping from it at the last second. And after a headbutt exchange between the two, Henare was able to get the Streets of Rage and get a clean pin on Shingo in Shingo's hometown. So we have another possibility or another step toward King of Pro Wrestling clash between the two. We already saw Henare pin Shingo once. So they're starting to plant this seed that maybe this is a bad matchup for Shingo. That he just doesn't quite fit what Shingo's doing in there, that Aaron Henare might be the wrong guy for him to face because he's now lost to him twice. This match was terrific. It did not look like Shingo was carrying Henare. Henare was right there with him. And I always knew that Henare was better than they were letting him look when he was in, when he was a babyface, when he was part of Hantai. I always knew that he was better than that because he was mostly just the guy that put over other people in that group. And he was that a little bit for the United Empire, but this Aaron Henare that we're seeing right now is a really strong wrestler, and he's kind of falling into that Shingo Takagi, maybe even Ishii kind of bruiser mode, where it's just can go in there and have these real stiff matches. We've sort of lost Togi Makabe from that as he's aged out of that group. this might be another one to join in with that group. Goto is one of them where you can just put him in. You know, it's just going to be a stiff, hard-hitting match. I enjoyed the hell out of this, if you can't tell.
No, I'm with you. It was a fantastic match. I got to give a lot of credit to Shingo Takagi as well.
Oh, sure.
This dude is down for anything. Like, he can be the IWGP champion, or he can be fucking around King of Pro Wrestling and willing to just go all in on whatever it is. This guy loves pro wrestling. Just flat out. He embodies it in so many ways, shape, or form. When he comes out there and he comes out with the dragon mask and the robe, he is 100% the gimmick that he is living. And then he goes out there and doesn't matter who his opponent is, he's giving it his all. If it's the King of Pro Wrestling title match, or if it's, you know, a first round New Japan Cup match, or, you know, ELP matches, everything that he's got going on, I cannot say enough that Shingo Takagi is just down for anything as a pro wrestler, and I applaud it. As for Aaron Henare, this might go down as one of his signature matches. I hope that he has opportunities to deliver more at this level into the future. But there are a lot of people that when they, you know, talk about Aaron Henare matches, they might go back and refer to this one as one of the favorites throughout his career, if ever pressed.
And we have a comment here from Brad Reeder, who's thanks, Brad, for catching us an hour early. I know we might have thrown some people off by going on a little early. We're glad you're watching. And he just said this is the best Henare has looked, and I love it. He's been a great standout this tour. Absolutely right. This has been a really good tour for him, and not just in the results sense, his wrestling as well. So good to see. I like the dude. I liked him back when he was in Hantai. I wish he had gotten a better babyface run, but in Ghetto we trust, and he had bigger plans for Henare than that. So off we go with that one. So that was that wrapped up that show. At that point, Jeremy, it was the end of the first round. United Empire had every single member still alive in the tournament at this point.
Half a dozen guys?
All 6 of them. Now, both members of Aussie Open, Henare, Okan, Cobb, Ospreay. As you look at this, do you feel like this was, I mean, obviously it was intentional. That's a silly thing. I almost said, do you feel like it was intentional? That's a stupid thing to say. Of course it is. But is the sense you're getting here that United Empire is being elevated by the overall performance in the tournament, or was it just to create some matchups in the second round? Was this a concerted effort to make United Empire look like more of a threat going forward? I feel like there was a message sent here that this faction is perhaps more important than just Ospreay, which is sort of been it's Ospreay and then a group of guys. I think that they're starting to push the idea that it's more than that.
We're getting kind of an existential thing with New Japan when you ask that. So I think it's more of a reminder than a declaration, because we have 4 big factions in New Japan as we speak. We have Bullet Club, we got Chaos, we got LIJ, and we got United Empire. For all intents and purposes, Hantai, just 4 guys, House of Torture, Strong Style, they're all a little bit lower tier, and even TMDK, they're all a little bit lower tier than those 4 right now. Everybody has a title. They're all dispersed equally. Every faction has a little bit of something representing them. They have something. Everybody's got a little something. So, except, actually, no, the United Empire does. They have the junior heavyweight tag titles. So I think it's more of a reminder than anything else. And I think it's just, we are going to go into the next 3 to 6 months, and United Empire is going to be everywhere. They're going to be in the best of the Super Juniors. They're going to be in the G1. They're going to be at Forbidden Door. They're going to be at Genesis. They're going to be at Dominion. When all the other factions may not be as prevalent and dominant, these guys are going to be on the cards and everywhere. And it's just better for New Japan to have them positioned in a strong spot, because they're going to be on a lot of cards going forward. That's just it.
More than once, by the way, you mentioned United Empire being everywhere. More than once, there has been mention in backstage comments, where very little happens by accident, of a female member as well, or members, perhaps something leaning over into stardom, which is, I think, is kind of exciting there too. So
there was something else that happened, and I don't know if it's news or noise, but I've been saying for a while that Leo Rush would be a great member of United Empire. Well, it may appear that Robbie Eagles is, in fact, the newest member of United Empire.
Made sense because remember, they were the birds of prey. It was Will Ospreay and Robbie Eagles when Will was with Chaos still, and they were a tag team and competed for the junior tag titles and everything else. So there is a history there that would make sense. At first, Eagles never really feuded with Will when he turned heel. Eagles was a junior, Will was a heavy, and Eagles, frankly, wasn't really at the level where he would have appeared competitive with that. So Eagles coming in, they have a junior heavyweight tag team. Eagles could be the junior that goes after the singles title. Right. He could be the guy that goes for Hiromu, and then they would have every base covered.
Yeah. So if I remember correctly, Eagles was Bullet Club, then he joined Chaos, and now he's with United Empire.
Right. So Phantasmo brought him in as a heel initially, and he bristled at the cheating.
Okay. So I hope that this is the stable that he stays with for a while. I do not want him to hop around. That's what it was. It might have been one of the Tamashi shows, actually.
Okay, and let's read this here for the folks that are podcasting. Apparently, TJP, this is from Brad Reeder again, who's helping us out here big time. Apparently, TJP offered Robbie Eagles a United Empire armband at a show in either England or Australia, so it could be like you said, could be Tamashi, could be something in Rev Pro. Yeah. All right. Well, and he got into a bit of a. Who did he get into a Twitter spat with as well? That Robbie did. So yeah, could be that he's starting to lean toward that direction. Maybe not as happy in Chaos.
One of my predictions may not pan out, but that's okay. Robbie Eagles is immensely talented, and him being in United Empire is pretty awesome.
And it's still, I don't think it hurts to have somebody with a little bit of a possible heelish edge in Chaos there. We're seeing a little bit from Okada sometimes, but and Lio Rush has a bit of an edge to him that I do enjoy. So lots of ways that could go. And Robbie Eagles, again, that's a really talented dude. So if he comes back to the New Japan rings, either as a tag team wrestler or, he was stuck with Tiger Mask for a while there, and I felt that was a bit of a waste of Robbie's talents, and so I would like to see him in a better spot than that.
Yep.
We're moving on to the 11th. Now we have to go to Nagoya and the Aichi province. This one was a bigger attended crowd, 2,190. This was a bigger crowd than the rest of the tour. Again, we had more drama. This one is a straight tag team match. Finlay and El Phantasmo teaming up to face Kosei Fujita and Zack Sabre. On this one. Now, again, ELP still baby facing at this point. And then they took it a little bit of a step further. There was a back rake spot set up. So, of course, we've seen all the back rakes that ELP did for a long time. Well, he set that up after he got a tag from Finlay that was more of a chop across the chest. He comes in and he climbs the ropes, getting ready to do the thing where he jumps off and then just rakes the guy's back. But instead, while he's standing on the top rope, Finlay goes and suplexes Fujita. Like, what are you waiting for? I'm here to wrestle. I'm not here to goof around. And so he just kind of left ELP standing there on the top rope with nothing to do. ELP eventually tagged Finlay with a slap across the face. Finlay slapped him right back. There was a bit of a slap fight breaking out in Bullet Club as Geto tried to get them focused again. Anyway, Finlay ended up beating Fujita with a blue thunder bomb, but for 8 minutes and 7 seconds, this was a pretty solid second match on a card.
I mean, there was a lot of shenanigans, but it was also telling a very consistent story throughout the whole thing. And like I said, we don't know which way is up and which way is down with Bullet Club, but it definitely, from the outside looking in, Phantasmo and Finlay do not want anything to do with each other, and the feeling is mutual.
Lots of Suntory spots in the next one. Again, it's House of Torture, Togo, Evil, Show, and Yujiro against just four guys. They had a lot of fun again with the whiskey spots, but and this one, Evil and Taichi really clashed and sort of chased each other around the arena a little bit. That could be going someplace. I don't know, but Evil and Taichi, they had the intensity in this one while everyone else was doing more things that were they were having fun. Evil and Taichi seemed pretty pissed off at each other.
I enjoy Taichi. I really do.
Yeah. Oh yeah. I'm a big Taichi fan. I think the last few years in particular, the guy has just stepped up multiple notches as far as 100%. Work goes and interest and everything else. Pretty entertaining match next with Lio Rush, Ishii, and Yo against Bushi, Hiromu, and Shingo. again, Ishii and Shingo, you can't go wrong. And it doesn't look like we're going to go wrong with Leo and Hiromu. So a fun match there. And then, we had the United Empire with Fletcher, Davis, and Ospreay over the Bishamon, Goto and YOSHI-HASHI, and Honma. And you can guess which one did the job there, of course. That was Davis beating Honma, and just teased a tiny bit of dissension since Davis was going to be facing Will Ospreay in the next round.
A little bit.
Just a little bit. Just a little bit. Here's the thing about that is I don't think anyone believed for a second that either one was going to turn on the other. I think everyone in the world knows that they were going to have a good match and then shake hands afterwards. So there's no reason to overdo this, but you always want to put a little bit of tension in there.
They put a little bit of pepper on top of stuff in this match, just a little bit, just to make you think that Mark Davis, if he got Will Ospreay at just the right moment, he might have a chance. Yeah,
they made it look pretty good too. The special tag team match was next. Intriguing thing to put on a card, isn't it, Jeremy? This is one that you didn't really see coming when they announced it. What are they going to do with this? Hiroshi Tanahashi and Kazuchika Okada teaming up in a straight tag team match against Ren Narita and Shota Umino. So very classic case of present versus future, I would say. Not quite the past. I mean, obviously, Okada's the world heavyweight champion. Tanahashi's still a draw. And Narita and Shota certainly part of the future of New Japan. We got the bully version of Okada here. He was kind
of a pattern.
He was a jerk to these guys, and it got a little chippy. They took exception to it appropriately. I thought that Narita and Umino showed appropriate backbone in this too, standing up to the guys, even though the story of the match was very much that Ren and Shota aren't there yet.
No, they are not.
And but this was a treat for the fans, I thought. I did feel like Kevin Kelly's commentary was a little bit off in this one, saying they were run out of the gym, because I actually think Okada and Tanahashi did a pretty decent job of putting over a few counters and some selling for the guys. So getting run out of the gym, I thought, was a little bit strong, but I understand the story they were trying to tell here. In the end, it was a rainmaker on Narita, but Shota made the save. Shota took the elbow and the high fly flow combination. Ren did. And then another Shota did. And then they managed to get another rainmaker on Narita once Shota was pretty much eliminated after that.
They pretty much humiliated Narita and methodically eliminated the both of them until Okada's like, okay, I'm done with you. You're going to get your rainmaker. Like Okada offered him like, all right, I'll give you a free punch. And Narita's like, you're damn right, I'm going to take it. He ducked it, got wrist control, gave him a lariat, and just put him down. Yeah. And there was a patheticness to it, and that was intentional on Okada's part. Like, he wanted to make it look like he wanted to kind of embarrass him in some way, in a slightly heelish way. I'm maintaining that Okada being slightly heel is very deliberate for the last couple of weeks, and he was subtly heel in very little ways, much like he was to Kiyomiya, in which he is disrespectful to these younger wrestlers that dare to come at him.
Well, I did think it was interesting too that Shota Umino basically hit an Okada dropkick on Okada. It did an Irish whip reversal and hit a dropkick right there that kind of stunned him. They gave him a little bit. I don't think this was the squash the way it's been made out to be in some cases. Either way,
this is the beginning of the story, man.
It is the very
these guys.
That's right.
And they needed to be embarrassed. They needed to be embarrassed in just a little bit, in which they are motivated to come back hungry and fight in the future. Really
I like that the Dream Team is starting to coalesce a little bit too, and they never had before. Like, their record as a tag team isn't very good at all. They just haven't really gelled, and that's been part of the story. And they lost to Bishamon because specifically they aren't tag team wrestlers, and they talked about that. It was like, Bishamon's the best tag team in the world. We couldn't, we were good singles wrestlers, but we couldn't compete with their coordination and cooperation. So afterwards, in backstage comments, Okada said he wanted more tags with Tanahashi in the future and was interested in making another run. It feels like losing that match to Bishamon has gotten to his pride a little bit. He said, well, I can't have this. Now I got to do this, right? Now we've got to go and do this. So he wants more tags with Tanahashi. We'll see if that pans out. But Some of the other comments there, Narita's a man of few words in those, so he just basically vowed revenge. But Shota says this match showed where he is versus where the very top is, and he understands how hard he has to work to get there. So, like you said, the very beginning of a story rather than the end of anything.
These were two pairs of singles wrestlers tag teaming, and the team that has a slight more familiarity with each other won this one handily. That's the story.
Up next, we had Tetsuya Naito and Chase Owens. This one was worked in a New Japan main event style, and means that it kind of went slow at the beginning and built. I can't really say that Chase kept up with him because he didn't. Chase eventually hit a very awkward-looking style clash off the ropes. The styles clash took way too much cooperation, obvious cooperation for my taste there. I didn't think that looked all that good. He attempted a package pile driver, but Naito got him with a victory roll. It was 18 minutes and 7 seconds, and I can't say I had a whole lot of notes on highlights for this one. It wasn't bad, but it wasn't a great match. And Naito did what he could over there, but this was not Chase's best work. Chase
is, I think I mentioned this in the Discord, someone who I believe is highly respected in New Japan because he has been there when a lot of other Western talent have come and gone over the last 6 years. He went through the COVID protocols. He was doing all the work for them. And even if he was a one and done, they made sure to give him an attempt to look good against Naito and perhaps even give the appearance that he might have the upper hand and potentially win this. Even though he didn't, it just says more about the respect that he has gained in New Japan from the company proper than anything else. I'm glad that he's not going forward. Naito was the right guy to win this if he was going to beat ELP. And now we can move on from it.
It's good for me because I had Naito winning the whole tournament. So this would have really screwed me up.
Ooh, yeah.
Now
we'll get to the bracket updates at some point.
SANADA and KENTA was the last match of the night. Surprised to find out SANADA was 3-0 against KENTA coming into this match in singles. KENTA ended up amusing thing where KENTA played it that he didn't know how to do the Paradise Lock, so he just grabbed some athletic tape and taped his ankles to his wrists. That would be SANADA's, and just set him down in a fake Paradise Lock where he was just tied up right there. He left him there for a while. Red Shoes did absolutely nothing, just stared at this whole thing going down. Again, this isn't their forte. But finally, Red Shoes decided to go ahead and get SANADA loose, and then he refused to count a pin after KENTA had taped him up. Later on, KENTA bumped Red Shoes after falling on him after a pin attempt kick out. So SANADA kicked out of a pin. KENTA did an exaggerated kind of a kick out where he landed on Red Shoes, kind of on purpose, the idea that he was going to try to bump Red Shoes. And after that, he started tearing up poor SANADA with chair shots, including one to the head, which was done professionally. He kind of knows how to handle that. And one of those chairs that kind of gives rather than a solid metal seat on it. That was to mild boos from the fans. A double stomp led to a kick out. SANADA rallied, got a TKO and a moonsault for 2. Then we got another ref bump. And after that one, SANADA managed to hit that new version of a DDT that he hasn't named yet. That's the one that looks almost like a Crossroads or a Blade Runner, but ends up in a DDT. And that was after they exchanged some really bad-looking belt shots. And what I mean by that is SANADA had so the belt, KENTA brought the belt into the ring, the New Japan Strong title belt. When SANADA was in Skull End, had him in Skull End, rather. So Kenta's bent over backwards, quite literally. And SANADA's squeezing the life out of him. He had to lean over at an awkward angle so that KENTA could reach him with this belt. So he had to kind of get into a position he's never in that move so that he could get hit in the head with the belt. Then they fought over the belt a little while longer, and KENTA had to hold the belt in an unnatural position as he's doubled over for longer than he should have before SANADA managed to make his way over and kick the belt up into his face. Took too long, didn't look right. Again, second match in a row here, Jeremy, that I thought was fine, wasn't great. Two pretty good wrestlers, but I don't think this delivered.
It was fine. I think SANADA winning was the right call. I kind of eyeballed SANADA and KENTA for the strong title. some point down the line. And I feel like the closer we get, that seems kind of like a reality of what we're getting. SANADA and Naito. As much as SANADA versus the winner of Evil versus Ospreay could be whatever it is. I don't know. It just feels like the ceiling for SANADA right now, even though a lot of people would like for him to go a lot further in this tournament.
Well, we had that one, and now we're heading over into Shiga on the 12th. Now, this was just under 800 came to this show, and we had more shenanigans with ELP, this time in a match against Just Four Guys. ELP had Doki in the Tree of Woe, and every time he went to do a move to Doki, Finlay would just push Doki off the ropes so that he couldn't do it. And so, again, more trolling of one another in this one than anything else. Any other notes from the undercard in this one, Jeremy?
I was delighted about Kenta's birthday.
Yes, okay. It was his birthday. They sang to him.
The whole just babyface Kenta legitimately like touched about people celebrating his birthday. I don't know. I told this story a little while back about being outside of the San Jose Civic when Kenta was leaving. And he was just hustling down. He wasn't entertaining anything. And I was on a stairwell. And I was just like, thanks for the great match, Kenta. Take care. And he just kept on walking, hand raised. And this was the Kenta I wanted to see. Just like, oh, yeah, you're welcome. Oh, this makes me happy. Like the whole thing. And I 100% believe he was playing it up for the Bullet Club angle in a lot of ways. But you know what? I enjoyed my popcorn and candy when it came to that.
Well, there you go. And so there were a few preview tags again. Nothing particularly new on that. Again, United Empire looking pretty good in theirs and working hard. Fujita looking good in his and working hard. You had the LIJ against Chaos, where you got more Ishii and Shingo, more Lio Rush and Hiromu.
10-man tag was pretty good.
That was a real good match. Yeah, a lot of energy in that one. And it only went 8:34, and there were 10 guys involved. So everyone could go full speed ahead, but they did. And they really shined in that one. I enjoyed that match. That was a fun 8-minute match.
Yeah, right.
And then we had a couple of longer matches for the New Japan Cup. And then this is the second round. And if I was disappointed by what happened in Nagoya, this turned all around. Boy, these were terrific. And so the first one was Aaron Henare and Tama Tonga. Now, again, more Thai-inspired kicks from Henare that looked really good. Another even match. It's getting to the point now where he's not playing he doesn't have to be the bully that dominates in order to make him look like an equal. He doesn't need to do that. He can just have even matches with these terrific wrestlers. He hit a rampage on Tama Tonga, looked great, and got a close 2 count. He had their moves now. Both the Streets of Rage, the Full Nelson, and the Gun Stun from Tama Tonga. These moves complement each other really well in that you can counter one into the other effectively. So you saw a thing where a Gun Stun was countered into a Full Nelson. You know, when he reached up to grab the neck of Henare to pull him down for that gun stun, Henare blocked that, and then the arms were right where they needed to be for him to lock in that Ultima version of his Full Nelson. Looked great. Tama escaped the Streets of Rage and hit Henare with a rough headbutt, or rough-looking headbutt. It wasn't rough. It was worked, but it looked good. Streets of Rage were countered again into a gun stun. That looked terrific. And then the second gun stun for the win. This was really good. Henare, again, having a very strong tournament, and even in defeat, ended up having a match. He's already got the King of Pro Wrestling title ahead because he's pinned Shingo twice. So didn't need to win this one in order for Henare, I feel, to come out of this tour looking stronger than he has.
Top level Tama Tonga. Every time he's told to deliver, he delivers in 30 minutes or less, let me tell you. Great match. Henare. The right man won, by the way. Tama Tonga should be moving forward on this one. But yeah, you've covered the main basics, the basics on this one. Henare looked great. Tama looked great. They really getting the gun stun over as a move that you don't want to get hit with. And when you do, the match is more or less trending to be over. So thumbs up across the board for this one.
Hirooki Goto and Kyle Fletcher were next. Now, of course, Fletcher has already beaten one half of Bishamon, the IWGP World Tag Team Champions. So now he gets the other one. He beat YOSHI-HASHI. Now he gets Goto in the second round. And my notes on this one, Jeremy, is that they didn't use the ring so much as pass through it a lot for the first 10 minutes of this match. A lot of work on the outside in this one, which was fine. It all went fine. They would get back in the ring, but then it tend to tumble, jump, or fall out of it. And Fletcher hit a really good-looking tombstone for a 2 count. It became a very common, and by common I mean very well-executed big move main event match, where as things build and build and build, it's 2 really good wrestlers hitting big moves on one another. So it's typical for a New Japan main event, but typical in the sense that it's something that's really, really good. We're used to those kind of really good main events, and we got one here. The clever move with the GTR in the corner. It didn't have YOSHI-HASHI to hold the guy's legs up, so he managed to catch Fletcher when he was in the turnbuckle. And so his feet were up on the second rope. He turned into a GTR there. And then an Ushigoroshi, another GTR, finished it off. Terrific match. Fletcher really shined in this one. We know what Goto is. We know he's a terrific wrestler. We know he's a terrific worker. We know he can make any match look like a real bruising battle. Fletcher was particularly outstanding in this one. I really liked his work, and it made me want to see more Aussie Open matches on one hand, because I don't think there are a lot of tag teams on that level anywhere. So I want to see that. But Kyle Fletcher as a singles doesn't hurt my feelings either after watching some of this stuff. But don't break up Aussie Open. This is not, I don't feel like anybody should be broken up here, as Aussie Open's too good. But boy, Kyle Fletcher has a bright future in this business, doesn't he? He's pretty young.
He's definitely going places. And he's even gained about 10 or 15 pounds of muscle mass since about 9 months ago. So he knows that he's got to look a little bit bigger and a little bit leaner. And he hasn't really lost a whole lot of his agility, which is really tremendous. I was thinking about it when you were talking about this match and looking at him with the cape. There's and I'm gonna nerd out real hard here. With Aussie Open, there's a Legolas and Gimli kind of vibe between them, where like you got the dwarf and you got the elf, and they're working together, and they're just an unstoppable team.
Could you run that reference through Google Translate for us that don't know?
Lord of the Rings.
Lord of the Rings. Okay, pardon me. I read The Hobbit when I was in grade school, and that's about it. I haven't seen the movie, so pardon me.
So Legolas and Gimli are a troll or a dwarf and an elf that should not get along, but are an incredible pair with each other.
Understood. Okay.
Just unstoppable. And when I look at them, I see the bruiser and I see the agile magician, and they just work really well together. And I know that you want Bishamon to have a long, healthy, fruitful tag title reign, but these 2 are knocking on the door, man. You can't deny them for much longer.
No, and that's going to be fine. I think they just want to reestablish those tag team belts with Bishamon. I just feel like that's where they're headed with this, and I don't see that as being a knock on Aussie Open at all. And I think one day they're probably going to have a good run of those titles. As always, anytime you're talking about a foreigner or a foreign team, foreign from Japan, you have to wonder just how much are they available. And that's always going to play into whether they get a run with the belts. We saw what happened with FTR when it doesn't work and the titles end up on ice for a long time. Now, Aussie Open doesn't have the complications that FTR had with the politics involved and everything else. But you always wonder when there is a non-Japanese, people who don't live in the country, how much does the company feel comfortable putting belts on them? Are they going to be able to get those dates? And all of that are X factors in addition to talent that goes into who gets runs with titles.
It still amazes me to this day that Gallows and Anderson were considered to be safe bets for so long. And yet everyone else that ever comes through, like, I don't know about those guys.
Yeah, well, I mean, yeah, they definitely, but Ghetto, I'll say this about Carl Anderson, not necessarily Gallows. I don't know personally. I know how Ghetto felt about Anderson because there are multiple stories of him saying to people like, that's my guy, and pointing over at Anderson. And they're like, what do you mean? And he just said, like, Carl Anderson. He said, when I need a good match, he uses Carl. And for years that was the case before they went to WWE right there. So, he went to the G1 finals once, Anderson did. So he held tag team titles, I think, with Goto or something like that. They might have won the tournament or something like that. So
times change though.
yeah, Gallows and Anderson had the in for a while there, where they had a higher level of trust with the booker than most do. So
spent a lot of capital on a never open weight title while at WWE. A lot of capital spent by a number of people over that one.
That situation, they just got stuck, and I still don't understand the heat on Carl Anderson on that, and I don't think I ever will. I thought Carl was just trying to lose the belt in the ring, and he got caught up between two different companies that couldn't quite decide how. But there we go. Anyway, moving on to Ehime. This is the most recent show here. This is on the 13th, just yesterday morning. 604 people in attendance for this one, and we were in Shingo Takagi's hometown earlier in the week. This is Kosei Fujita's hometown, and he was in the second match, teaming with Zack against Shota Umino and Tama Tonga, and they gave Fujita a lot in this one. They knew it was his home crowd. He's also the only young lion in the match. Remember, he's still a young lion, even if he's with Zack, and he did do the job. But they did a wonderful Boston Crab spot with Tama Tonga, where he suffered in it and fought his way to the ropes. And it's one of those things that they do with young lions, where he's almost at the ropes. And as he's reaching for them, the guy pulls him back to the center of the ring and sits down, and that's when you get the tap, right? Except this time he goes to tap and he smacks his hand down just the once, though, not a full tap out, and then muscles his way to the ropes and gets it. And the crowd popped beautifully for it. They were really happy. And then he got a really close near fall in before finally succumbing in this one. So terrific match. And, 10 minutes, 55 seconds, and just a little sneaky good match early in the card.
You pretty much nailed it on that one. Tama Tonga and Shota Umino taking their picture at the very end. Mm-hmm. There was just general vibe of like, these two guys are going to be big players in New Japan over the next 2 years. So them teaming with each other is probably going to lead to them winning more than losing, if that's going to be a pattern.
There's also a funny comment afterwards from Zack Sabre Jr. in the post-match comments, where he said, people say you're supposed to be the next Tanahashi. As long as your entrance is, you're more like the next Naito. It takes 10 minutes for you to get to the bloody ring.
He ain't wrong.
He's not wrong. He is not wrong. Oh, Colin, you're watching there. Colin Matthews joined us here. Thankfully, Colin, we did start an hour early. That's my fault. I've got a football match to get to tonight, and so we are a little bit going a little bit early today. So we definitely appreciate you coming in.
Hi, Colin. How are you?
And let's see, any other notes on the thing? Oh yeah, the El Phantasmo and Kyle Fletcher really looked good against each other in a United Empire Bullet Club match. This was Finlay, Phantasmo, and Geto. So Geto was there to take the loss in this one against Great Okan, Kyle Fletcher, Aaron Henare. Okan, of course, was going to be the guy that gets the win here. He was the only person in the match still in the tournament. With Finlay, but Geto was there. And so lots of Fletcher selling. Fletcher was Ricky Morton in this one. Henare and Okan just had a little cleanup duty later. But interesting stuff again with the clash with Finlay and Phantasmo. And here's the point now that we get to it, Jeremy. This is my prediction for this, that this is more of an Uso false turn. And why I'm feeling this way. I feel like Phantasmo is leaning a little too hard into the baby facing after the match. He's being a little too cuddly with the fans. Also, I think in this case, with this thing, a double turn would be tricky for this reason. You would have to have them face each other and someone would have to lose. It can be done. I'm not saying it can't be done. But at this point, I feel like Finlay really needs to be established as a high-level heel. Mm-hmm. So he can't really lose to El Phantasmo. If you switch Phantasmo babyface, I think you have too many plans ahead for El Phantasmo to have him look like the chump that just puts David Finlay over. So I think what we're going to get at first, and maybe even in the finals, is El Phantasmo teasing that he's going to do something to Finlay, but then is Bullet Club all the way.
Right.
Now, whether or not that lasts is another item. But I think at least for a few months, they're going to go with the idea that Finlay is the leader of Bullet Club who perhaps rules a little bit more through being through fear than being anyone that the guys really rally around. Just the idea that he's not nice to these guys. He's not a buddy of theirs. But I don't see them doing that because somebody would just have to lose. And I think Geto has too many plans for both of these guys to have either one just lose a feud right out of the gate. So I think it might be a thing where we're going to establish Finlay. Then later on, when it's okay for Finlay maybe to lose, or when we were feeling good about Elfan, because when you switch a guy, they usually in New Japan get a strong run. There's not too many guys that just turn and then sink down the card. It's usually a rallying point for them, and that would be tricky to do here when you're trying to get Finlay established, to then have him go against a babyface El Phantasmo and have one of them, in the way New Japan books, cut off at the knees with losses. That's just my theory on that. That at first they're going to try to get along, and we'll find out that Phantasmo is actually a jerk at heart.
I think you're probably right. They've already done quite a bit to tie Finlay to the face of Bullet Club. And if Bullet Club is to remain strong, Bullet Club fracturing at the top level under Finlay does not make Finlay look strong. It doesn't in any way, shape, or form. And so unifying the faction of being like, oh yeah, we tease being good guys, but we're actually bad guys at heart, and we're going to lean harder into that. That really does seem like where we're going with here. And so I think you're probably on the right page with that.
And that, again, that doesn't mean that down the road these two don't eat each other. But for now, yes.
Right now.
That's my prediction for the it could even be the finals. If Finlay makes the finals. Yeah, if Finlay makes the finals, that could be the big angle at the end where he does the screw job on whoever. And so that if he's in there with a baby face like Shota Umino, or even it would be Shota, I guess, on the bracket, but if he's in there against a baby face like, or Naito or something like that, that could be how they don't hurt the baby face too much and get Finlay over as, oh, this guy's not only good, but he's also really, sneaky and willing to do underhanded things. So Jay White didn't have too much outside interference in his matches. Maybe Finlay will be one that does.
Yeah, well, Finlay is not the counter-based wrestler, so his bag of tricks is going to be different than what Jay White used to introduce. He is a fighter. He is a brute strength and force to win the day when David Finlay is around.
There you go. So we had LIJ. This is Bushi. Well, this was an all skate, I call him. Going back to my roller skating days. There, it's an all skate. Everybody in. Bushi, Hiromu Takahashi, Sanada, Shingo Takagi, Naito against Chaos, which was Ishii, Lio Rush, Goto, and YOSHI-HASHI. 15 minutes and 16 seconds of energetic wrestling. This one was another high energy one, and everybody looked like they were having fun. Shingo got the win over Yo with a pumping bomber. But just another match where everybody seemed to be enjoying working with each other. And,
party match.
Moving at a high speed. I enjoyed this one anyway.
Yeah.
I thought that this one was worth going out of your way to see there. So.
Party match, every so often you just want to see just a bunch of bullshit thrown at a wall and a bunch of wrestlers just going at it and just kind of freestyle jamming with a finish in mind. And this is what it was. It was just a bunch of guys just going out there and, doing their craft on a weeknight kind of thing.
So let's go into these New Japan Cup matches. We're into round 2 again, and we have Evil against Jeff Cobb. Hijinks galore in this one, huh? So you expect that. Now, I wondered how they were going to do this because United Empire accompany one another to ringside, but they don't interfere. That's one thing that's been fairly consistent. They don't really interfere very much. House of Torture is all they do is interfere. So how are they going to do that with United Empire right there? Not only that, Great O'Khan was on commentary. They figured out a way. So here are the hijinks in this one. Dick Togo just blatantly interferes. Doesn't seem to realize that there are United Empire guys around. So they would chase him off and things. Finally, they just grabbed him. Aaron Henare and Kyle Fletcher grabbed Dick Togo and just began carrying him out of the arena. Just grabbed him and started bringing him up the aisle right there. Didn't beat him up, you're just going to carry him, and I'd imagine toss him in a dumpster out back is how I pictured this. And they were attacked by the rest of House of Torture before they could do so, however. So after that, we had Yujiro out there, Sho was out there, others, and they all attacked. And Evil even went over to the broadcasting position, somehow produced a pair of handcuffs, never did see where those came from, and cuffed Great-O-Khan to the rail. And Great-O-Khan was doing Japanese commentary. And so he was stuck. After that, there was a ref bump that I didn't even see, quite frankly. I'm not sure if it was on camera or I was just kind of scanning the arena for one of the 20 different brawls going on around the ring. But finally, the referee is down. All the members of the House of Torture surround Jeff Cobb and just beat him down. In a weird way, it put over Jeff Cobb because it literally took every single one of them to do it. And so it didn't kill Cobb in the way because, 4-on-1, what the hell do you expect? Eventually he did succumb. Everything is Evil, but that wasn't the finisher. I mean, he was beaten down by the entire group and pinned. So it gets Evil into the quarterfinals. It gets another member of United Empire out in the second round. Could have been worse. Again, I mentioned it before. This isn't what they do well, but this wasn't good, but it wasn't it was a better version of it than we usually see.
It was a better version than we usually see. Jeff Cobb, as much as we all wanted him to win this match, I think deep down we knew that he wasn't going to, because the match of Jeff Cobb versus Will Ospreay is not something that they're going to give us anytime soon, it feels like. But I will tell you that what endeared me to this whole scenario more than anything else was looking at the social media afterwards and watching the pictures of Great-O-Khan sitting in an empty arena, still handcuffed, just forlorn, upset, just all by himself. It was absolutely tremendous.
It's worth mentioning, by the way, that O-Khan, I haven't seen that. I'd love it though. It's worth mentioning that O-Khan stayed handcuffed the rest of the night. Like nobody came with a key and got him out. So the rest of the card, poor Great-O-Khan is absolutely stuck. And in an awkward position too. Like he has to lean over the table very uncomfortably. So nobody came to help the poor dude. So anyway, his commitment to that was entertaining. And it also Evil was feuding with like five, wasn't he? Because he's got Taichi seems particularly upset with him, and he's been throwing around threats and comments. And then he is, of course, going after Ren Narita in the never open weight 6-man tag team titles. And then we have this, and there is a way for this to pay off too, if they want to, with Great-O-Khan being pissed off for being handcuffed to the rails. So Evil just ruffling many feathers.
He's a jerk.
What do you think of that, Brad, here? When does Bullet Club and House of Torture come to a head? Do you think they will? I am surprised that House of Torture, which is allegedly part of Bullet Club, has been absolutely zero part of the David Finlay storyline whatsoever. They haven't commented on it. They don't seem to care. And they wholly separate from Bullet Club now, even though they really aren't. What's your thought on that?
Well, I am waiting for the big moment of it to happen. Like, there's got to be a catalyst, and it hasn't happened yet. I feel like the House of Torture is an offshoot of Bullet Club. It's kind of run its course in general, but they're comfortable with the stable, even though whenever I see the House of Torture, I feel like they, as a group, are running through the motions. And so... when it comes to a head, I'd like to see it around the G1 or beforehand, and maybe make it a running story through the G1 before they just kind of wrap the whole faction up before the end of the year. But I don't know if it would be a quick Band-Aid ripoff or like a slow wound healing that they play out for a long time. What do you think?
Yeah, I guess it'll eventually, they'll have to eventually. I think the G1 might be the way to do it. There's a little bit too much going on in this one. And you already have the El Phantasmo controversy, so they're not going to get into it here during or in the immediate aftermath of it. The G1 might be a part where there's something on the lines of they end up in the same block and get that whole, well, you're going to do the right thing, right? Up yours. I'm not even in your group anymore. So it could be something like that. But yeah, it feels like that needs to be addressed at some point.
Yeah. Well, I hope we see it eventually. I do have a gift for you, though, before we move on to our next topic.
See it. There
it is.
He's still there. Oh, somebody bring him a sandwich.
They got the janitor in the corner doing the mop up.
That's so fantastic. That's wonderful. I didn't know they did that. That's wonderful. Yeah, somebody bring him an onigiri. For God's sake, man's going to starve.
Brought me so much joy when I saw that. It endeared me to the entire angle.
Get him some Fami Chicky from Family Mart there. Just get the poor guy something.
He had a happy ending. He ate food with friends and da-da-da.
Okay. All right. As long as he's okay. We don't want anything to happen to Great Okan.
We got one more match to cover night?
We have one more match to cover here. It's Will Ospreay. So this is our intersectional matchup here. Both of these members of the United Empire. And Will worked very hard to put over Davis's power early in this match. A lot of spots where Davis was simply overpowering Will. At one point, and this could end up being a key moment in the next few months in New Japan, depending on how this turns out, Jeremy, Davis threw the ringside mats over Will Ospreay, the idea being that Ospreay could not see Davis anymore.
No.
Did a... No? Well, you did.
Oh, no. I was like, no, this is bad. All bad.
Yeah. Oh, I see what you mean. Okay. So he throws the mats over on top of him. Then he goes and does a senton on Will. Now, Mark is a big man. So is Will, to be fair. But he seems to have hurt Will's shoulder in this. Now, of course, he didn't do that intentionally. But it seems like there was a bit of bad luck here. And that Will might have injured his shoulder when Davis crashed down on him. Will, being Will, toughed his way through this thing. And if anyone can wrestle a match with a bad shoulder and still pull something out, it's Will Ospreay. He gave Davis a lot. He kicked out of an Os cutter in this thing. And there was a spot that looked like it was going to be the off-the-top rope Spanish fly. Both guys are standing on the top rope in the corner. And instead, Davis just lariated him, just gave him a lariat. And he backflipped back into the ring. He did another one of those backflips when selling a lariat from Davis again, just putting over the idea that he was wrestling trained. And my favorite spot of this one, Jeremy, Davis is standing near Ospreay's head, and Ospreay's legs come up. He grabs Ospreay's legs, so now Will's back and his head are kind of to the mat. His legs are up in the air. Davis just grabs his legs, yanks him up into the air, into a tombstone pile driver in like one fluid move. Wow, that was cool looking. I was watching this match. My girlfriend, we were up early watching this one. We're having our coffee in the morning, and I just said, I've been watching wrestling since 1983, and I don't think I have ever seen that. And I cannot think of a time I've seen someone do it in that way. It was very, very cool. Yeah, he really is. And Will is Will and made him look fantastic, which isn't as hard an assignment as other Will matches because Davis is really talented. So he's not that he's being an untalented guy along, which Ospreay is absolutely capable of doing, but Mark Davis is terrific. Did a really nice sell of a move into the corner, set himself up for the hidden blade, and then Will delivered a really good looking hidden blade, pinned him. And of course, shaking hands afterwards. This was 20 minutes and 1 sec. Felt like 5 minutes. I love this match. I have liked just about everything United Empire has done on this entire tour, and this was the icing on top of that cake. I loved it.
This is one of those matches where it's not going to get a whole lot of credit at the end of the year for being as good as it was, because it's frankly in the middle of a bunch of good or great matches that we've been introduced to in the New Japan Cup. And so when people were talking about afterwards of what matches should I go back and check out, this is probably one of them that you should definitely go back and check out, but it might even be better than just a match on the cup that you should go back and check out. Time will tell, but this does seem to be a pretty special match.
Yeah, it felt really good, and Ospreay moves on the tournament, and he'll be facing Evil. Looks like so. Let's talk about
2 matchups and what Friday?
Yeah, we got some stuff. Friday is Great-O-Khan against David Finlay, and Shota Umino against Zack Sabre Jr. So let's take a look, courtesy of Chris Samsa here, who put together our stats, and Jeremy, who put together this nice little graphic for the folks on YouTube here. In New Japan Cup history, this is his second New Japan Cup, his first in a couple of years, David Finlay. He went to the semifinals in 2021. His all-time record, 3-1. Singles record against his current quadrant is now it's 1-2. He's got a win in there against Ishii, and so I guess he's 4-1 in the tournament total now. His single record in the last 365 days, he is 8-5. And some interesting notes there. He had only wrestled Yujiro Takahashi and Zack Sabre Jr. in his quadrant before. Now he has a match against Ishii, and he's about to have one against Okan. And he reached the Final Four, like we mentioned, in his debut 2 years ago. So that's Finlay, and I'm expecting another Finlay win. I don't think the wheels fall off the cart quite yet for Finlay. I think he's going pretty deep in this tournament.
So you're saying there's a precedent for him making the Final Four before the New Japan Cup?
It's happened before. It's going to happen again.
What about Great-O-Khan?
Great-O-Khan, it's his third entry, third in a row. Didn't make it past the Sweet 16, and now he's in the Final 8. So, that's one. So he's got a no. This was 16, isn't it? This is round of 16 coming up. Okay, see, there you go. So this might be this might be his wall here, Jeremy. His all-time New Japan Cup record now 3-2, 4-3 against his quadrant. Of course, the graphic that I'm reading here came before the tournament began, and Okan has a win. His singles record in the last 65 days was listed as 10-8 going into the tournament. He's never advanced past the round of 16. And he had a first round bye this year, so his cup record's 2-2 and 3-3 against his quadrant. So I'll get this right eventually. So his tournament will begin in the round of 16 this year, and like I said, against David Finlay, looks like it's going to be
for him. Yeah, I believe that he cannot enable his claw-based maneuvers because his wrist is too damaged from the handcuff injury that he maintained.
Plus, he might still be cuffed in that arena somewhere.
That's what I'm saying.
It might be a forfeit. He might still be there.
I think we figured out how we're getting around this match because Great-O-Khan is an obstacle for David Finlay to get past.
Yeah, that'll be fine.
All right, what else we got here?
Zack Sabre Jr. So we have he has a bye in this one here, so he'll be facing Shota Umino. His all-time New Japan Cup record is one of the strongest. He's been in 6 consecutives. He has won this tournament twice in 2018 and then last year, 13-3 in the Cup. Singles record against his quadrant is 9-3. In the last 365 days, a very strong 16-5. Shows you that he is a singles wrestler this company takes very, very seriously. He's one of only 5 guys who have won multiple New Japan Cups. Tanahashi has, Goto has, Yuji Nagata and Okada each have. And Sabre's 11 submission victories is also a New Japan Cup record.
It would be quite a feather in the cap of anyone who managed to beat the winner of the 2022 New Japan Cup. Who is facing him next? Oh, this guy. Got it.
Shota Umino. So here's our history with him. He has his second entry, his first in 4 years, though. I guess he was a young lion when he was in there the first time. He was eliminated by Hiroshi Tanahashi in the first round back in 2019. So he got a win earlier in the tournament, so he's now 1-1 in both all time and in his quadrant. His singles record in the last 365 days, only 2-4. I expect him to get a win here to set up a couple of things. One, a bit of a push for him, and then also to establish the idea of him facing Zach for that TV title, Jeremy.
Yeah, I feel like him sneaking out a win over Zack Sabre Jr. after 15 minutes might be a proper story for this match, leading into something with a 15-minute time limit going forward.
There you go. That is the 15th, and then we'll have more matches on the 17th at Korakuen Hall, but that'll be quarterfinals, and for kayfabe reasons, of course, we don't have a card for that one because theoretically we don't know who's going to face who, do we? So here's your bracket. You got SANADA, Tetsuya Naito. We're going to be seeing that one. Those two face each other. Evil and we mentioned.
I guess this isn't totally updated. Sorry.
Right, Evil and Ospreay. We have Evil and Ospreay. We'll have Goto and Tama Tonga. That's an interesting match right there. And then we'll see. And then like I said, we'll see Finlay against Great Khan, Shota and Zach, and that will take care of the second round. And we'll be on to the quarters after that.
Steven, are you ready to brace for Impact in some way, shape, or form? Because I have something that we need to look at, and it is our bracket.
Oh my Lord! All right, so how do we now? This isn't terrible, is it?
No, we did pretty good going forward. I don't think that our finals are going to be on point, but I think we read the room pretty good going into the final four.
Well, of course, my personal opinion is that Naito's winning this thing. I'm going to stand by it. But yes, when we worked with Scott Edwards here to create this bracket, we came up with a final four of SANADA, Ospreay, Shingo, and Shota. 3 of those 4 still in the tournament. Shingo went out early, but we had, sorry about that. We had him, my goodness, that's embarrassing. We had him beating Hirooki Goto in the quarterfinals. Goto's still in it, so that's not terrible if that works out that way.
Finlay and Shota Umino in the bottom quadrant. I'm feeling pretty good about that little combination. Evil and Will Ospreay is already confirmed. We went 7 for 8-ish.
Yeah,
in the 8. That's all right. It's not gonna be well for us further on. It's not gonna be pretty. But for here on out, I'm going to say we did all right.
No, I think we tripped over our shoelaces into something fairly decent here. That's not so bad. That's not so bad.
Collaboration from Smarty Pantses.
Exactly. Oh boy, there you go.
Now the real break for Impact and for announcement. Next week we will be having Mike Gilbert join us for a special Multiverse United preview show. Yes, it will be 10 days in advance, but we want a lot of people to watch the show because there's a lot of smart people talking about this match. The reason we're bringing it up now is because 3 matches were announced this past week. Yeah. 2 of which have New Japan talent, but we will get to that shortly. The first one will be Mickie James, Deonna Purrazzo, Gazelle Shaw, and Miyu Yamashita in a Knockout World Championship 4-way match. That's going to be good. This will also be good. The Impact World Tag Team Championship match with ABC, the Ace and Bay Connection, Aussie Open, the Mighty Don't Kneel with Bad Dude Tito replacing Mikey Thorne, Shane Hayes and Mikey Thorne. And then the Motor City Machine Guns.
Oh, Mikey Nichols.
I couldn't remember the last name. Mikey Nichols and Shane Hayes. But Tito replacing Mikey Nichols. Hayes had mentioned previously that Tito was still a part of TMDK, and this is confirmation of that. And then we get this weird match, which you and I are going to try and make sense of now.
Well, don't forget the Motor City Machine Guns are in that match.
Oh, yes. I've had it and I forgot it. And the Motor City Machine Guns, who were the Impact Tag Champions, lost it to Bullet Club just a few weeks ago. And this is their rematch clause match. I would have gone for a one-on-one, but hey, I'm not the Motor City Machine Gun.
Hey, you're not the booker here. So what else we got?
Okay, so we have Multiverse United, Fred Rosser, Alex Coughlin, Sami Callihan, and PCO versus Eddie Edwards, Joe Hendry, Tom Lawler, and JR Kratos. Fact of the matter is, New Japan loves their Mystery Vortex matches. This is a Mystery Vortex match. You have heels and faces on both sides. You have Lawler and Rosser who have beef with each other. You got Coughlin and Kratos who have beef with each other. I'm assuming Eddie Edwards and PCO have beef with each other. And eventually, Sami Callihan might be challenging for Joe Hendry's digital media Impact World title, which I believe he has. And if I got that wrong, Mike Gilbert will tell me I was wrong next week. That is in addition to... Oh, man, how many matches did this fucking thing have? Josh Alexander versus Kushida. Okay. Will Ospreay versus Mike Bailey. Moose versus Jeff Cobb.
Okay. That's it. Now that one's interesting. That'll be a car crash of a match, and in a good way, right? Those are 2 very strong men. My prediction,
and I have nothing to base this on. Okay. Kenny Omega shows up at the end of that match.
Ooh. Well, he and Cobb, right?
That's what I'm saying. Jeff Cobb loses that match, and we move on to the United States Championship match.
I'd be
Trey
down with
Miguel
that.
versus Rich Swann versus Frankie Kazarian versus Kevin Knight versus Clark Connors versus Rocky Romero for the Impact X Division Championship. In a complete New Japan match, we have Kenta versus Minoru Suzuki for the Strong Openweight Championship. And then we have the 3 matches that I previously mentioned. This will be on Thursday, March 30th as part of the package of WrestleMania shows that we have going forward in the world of wrestling around WrestleMania Goes Hollywood. And it's gonna be one of the more exciting shows that I think we see there. So do you have anything to add to that?
No, I'm except that I'm looking forward to it. Like you said, there's some interesting stuff in there and some matchups that could lead to things down the road. I like your idea about Omega showing up. I think that would be quite exciting, and if that works out, so yeah, and Cobb versus Moose just as a whole, I'm fascinated by. There's a lot that could go both right and wrong, I suppose, right? So we'll see how that goes.
And they teased that Kushida match with Josh Alexander at Battle in the Valley when Kevin Knight got the pin, but Kushida still had the hoverboard lock on Josh Alexander when the submission was going on. So they've been building this in a few ways, and we'll get Mike Gilbert on here next week. We will go over it, a full preview in addition to the New Japan Cup, and we will discuss that. And instead of a history lesson this week, I went to the Discord in which you can join by emailing gg@fightgamemedia.com and let him know, speaking of strong style, you'd like to join the Discord and maintain conversations like this. But I went into the Discord and I asked for people's top 3 match challengers for an Okada title defense in 2023. So I got a couple of responses, and I'm going to read them out to you now.
Let's hear it.
Brad Ryder said that he thought
Brad Ryder's getting a title shot? Oh, wait, no.
Brad Ryder would like to see Taichi, David Finlay, and ELP have a 2023 IWGP Heavyweight title shot. Mel Gray would like to see Will Ospreay, Zack Sabre Jr., and Shota Umino get a 2023 IWGP World Heavyweight title shot.
I would say at least 2 of those 3 are fairly likely.
Fairly likely. Paul Fontaine would like to see Tomohiro Ishii, Will Ospreay, and Ren Narita get an IWGP World Heavyweight title shot.
I would enjoy any of those matches.
Joe Gilbert would like to see David Finlay, Shooter Shota Umino, and Hiromu Takahashi get an IWGP World Heavyweight title shot.
Okay.
And then to finish up, my 3 were Will Ospreay, Taichi, and Yota Tsuji. What about you?
Yota Tsuji, my God.
Yota Tsuji.
Yota Tsuji.
I love me some Yota Tsuji, baby.
Okay. Wow. There you go. Yeah. I mean, I would love to see Taichi get in there. I just don't see a path to it at the moment. And I already think we're going to see Naito again. I think we're going to get that one. I do think we'll probably see Finlay before the end of the year. And the other one that I would really enjoy seeing, similar to what made a couple of lists, Zack Sabre Jr. I'm in for that. Yeah. Shota in 2023, I think might be a little bit early. I'm not sure that match is ripe yet, but man, it's going to be terrific once it finally hits the ring and Shota's sort of ready for that match.
I was resistant to him at first, but he's growing on me.
Oh, I like the guy. I really like Shota.
And I think the whole thing, the presentation, starting to grow.
Yeah. I like him a lot. I think he's a real talented guy, and he is working very hard. Both with the fans. You can see it in the gym because his body has transformed in the last few months, looking real strong. So
he's aware there's scrutiny in his position, and he is not giving anyone any reason to call him to task.
But with the long hair and the bleach blonde and the color of his various colors of his tights, when he faced off against Tanahashi, it really was like looking at 2 people coming out of a time machine. It was really striking.
If you think about it, I was making jokes that Master Wato looked like Okada's kid brother, and now you got Shota Umino looking like Tanahashi's kid brother. Of the kid brother look, Shooter definitely won that battle of cooler younger brother look. He's
almost doing a Tanahashi cosplay in that whole thing. A little bit. Then of course you have the Son of Strong Style. So there you go. It's all the way through. They're trying to recreate it all. So Jeremy, we're almost out of time. This one went really quickly, it feels like. Tell us about your socials, anything else you want to get in before the end of it.
We're going to do Jer Finestone at Twitter. I barely use it other than to advertise stuff on Fight Game Media because Twitter is a hellhole, but I love you all anyways. We will be doing a Multiverse United pre-show and post-show. More details to follow through the Speaking of Strong Style portal. Conway, what do you got?
Well, of course, I'm at Stephen Conway 88. Ringside Replay. I was just on the 5-Star Joshi show. I was on with Garrett Gonzalez on the Road WrestleMania centric show that we have here on the Fight Game Media feed. Make sure you look for that. And next week we'll be back at our regular time live on YouTube, and then afterwards, a few hours later, wherever you get your podcast, we're going to go back to our regular time next week. I've got a football game to go to tonight. I'm excited. We need goals tonight, Jeremy. We need four of them to get through here. So
I hope all the balls hit the net, buddy.
Let's hope it happens. For Jeremy Finestone, I am Stephen Conway. May all your balls be in your net. And until next week, we'll see you next time on Speaking of Strong Style.